Good morning, everyone. We are here with your Attorney General, Andy Beshear.
All right, so Mr. Beshear, as we are all aware, you're the Attorney General of Kentucky. Can you tell us exactly what the Attorney General does?
So the Attorney General is the state's top prosecutor, top law enforcement official, top lawyer, but I see myself as the chief protector of Kentucky's families. And so what that means to me is that when I go to work, it's not to do a job, it's to serve a mission. And that's to make sure every Kentucky family can live in a safe neighborhood and have a real path to prosperity. And we do that by addressing 4 challenges that can impact any Kentucky family. Those are the prevention and prosecution of child abuse, better protecting our seniors against scams and abuse, seeking justice for victims of violent crime, and finding solutions to this drug epidemic, which I know has impacted your community and every other community across Kentucky.
That's great. Since we're all concerned about school shootings, what
Yes.
do you think we can do to ensure our school safety?
Well, I'm the dad of 2 children that are 7 and 8, and so every time one of these happens, it not only impacts me as Attorney General, but it impacts me personally. And we got a lot of people out there who are talking at each other, and it seems we've had a lot of that. I just want to get something done. And right now what I see with us being able to get done is about school security and really the physical security of our school. Coming into the middle school this morning, you had to be buzzed through 2 separate doors. That is one security mechanism that most schools don't have and can provide a lot of safety. We need to look at some other things, like for instance clear backpacks, which some schools don't have. And then in some of our schools we may have to look at metal detectors. I know that's something none of us really want, but we may be at that place in our world. But that's where I think we can get something done right now that can hopefully prevent the next one of these from happening, to make sure that if people sadly reach that point where they're going to commit that act, that they look at a school and they say, that's too secure, I'm not going there.
I agree. On your website, you have a quote that says, "The Attorney General is the people's lawyer. I am your advocate and I take that very seriously." Can you explain what that means in accordance to recent pension crises in Kentucky?
Sure. What it means is that under the law, and this is from our Constitution and from our Supreme Court, that I'm not the legislature's lawyer, I'm not the governor's lawyer. I may have proven that once or twice. But I'm the people's lawyer. My obligation is always to the Constitution and to Kentucky's families and to do what's best for them. So in the context of the pension crisis right now, we have a bill that's been proposed. It's called Senate Bill 1 that is illegal, that it breaks Kentucky law. And as the people's lawyer, it means that if they pass it, and I don't think they will, I will not defend it because it's illegal and it's wrong. In fact, I will sue on behalf of Kentucky families and teachers and others to make sure it doesn't become law. And because what it does is it violates a promise. So decades ago, the General Assembly made a promise. They said, if you're willing to dedicate your life to public service, to teaching our kids, to protecting our families in law enforcement or as a firefighter, to helping neglected children as a social worker, sadly we won't pay you enough, but we will guarantee you a good retirement. And they took that promise and they turned it into a contract. A contract's harder to break than just a promise. Then they took that contract and they passed it into law, and that's even harder to break than a contract because now it's a law. And when they passed it into law, they made it what's called inviolable, which is a word that means it can never be broken. So the General Assembly passed a law saying, the day you start, you are guaranteed to this set of benefits and will never ever break it. Now I believe, and I think we teach in this school and others, that when you give your word and you make a promise and you create a contract and you pass it into law and you say it'll never be broken, that you don't break it. That's the wrong thing to do, and it's not legal.
It's very interesting. Could you describe a typical day in the life of an Attorney General?
Wow. Every day as Attorney General is very different. You think that you will have one set thing or a list of things you're going to do when you go in, and then roughly 30 emergencies happen across the Commonwealth in some form or fashion. But what we try to do every day is help people. A lot of what people get to read about are either the policy issues or lawsuits or the rest, but we've rescued now nearly 10 human trafficking victims. We arrest child predators almost every single day around Kentucky. We help recover money from seniors who've been scammed, who are depending on that money for retirement. So we get to do great things like that. We have a program to clean out medicine cabinets all across Kentucky because the dangerous prescription drugs in them is still the leading supply of drugs that causes addiction. So our typical day is to try to help as many families as we can.
What's your favorite part of your day?
Oh, well, I love when we have school groups that come in. You know, I start every day as a dad. And to see people come to the Capitol that want to be a part and have the right type of expectations of their government, where they expect people to do the right thing, to be adults, to treat each other with dignity, to act in the same way that we expect you to act in school for the betterment of our Commonwealth, that's always pretty special.
That's great. How did your dad being governor help you on the road to becoming Kentucky's Attorney General?
So my dad wasn't just governor, he was actually Attorney General from 1979 to 1983. I tell him that's before computers, so it doesn't count. And I'll give you a neat bit of history. We are only the second father-son Attorney General in the history of the Commonwealth. The first was James and John Marshall Harlan. And James Harlan left being Attorney General to serve as one of Abraham Lincoln's U.S. attorneys. John Marshall Harlan, after he was done with being Kentucky's AG, became a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. And he was the very first Supreme Court Justice to ever rule that the Constitution treated everyone equally, regardless of race. He's the sole dissenting voice in the case called Plessy versus Ferguson, which I know that you all study, and he was called the Great Dissenter. So when Thurgood Marshall became the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, they asked him a question. They said, who do you think was the bravest or the most courageous Supreme Court Justice before you? And he said John Marshall Harlan. I think that's pretty special, having him come from Kentucky. But just having somebody there that has been through a lot, but always cares about me first. I'd love it if he'd babysit my kids just a little bit more. I haven't seen a movie in about 2 years, but we're still working on that. He's still adjusting to his new life.
Right. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for coming in. But before we leave, UK or U of L?
Oh, I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, so I'm a big Cats fan. I do root for U of L. I think we can do that when they're not playing. I want the best for that university, and having really good universities in Kentucky is a great thing. One of the most important things we can do to create the jobs of the future that we want you all to have and everyone to have is to graduate more of our students from universities. So we want them to be strong, and we want every single one of you all to go on to amazing careers, hopefully here in Kentucky.
Right. Go Cats. Have a good day.